Hi guys, so the first step we're going to do is format our USB stick to FAT32 format, so the PS2 is able to recognize and read your games. Open up FreeMcBoot Tools, USB Stick Utilities, and then FAT32 Formatter. Tools, USB Utilities, FAT32 Formatter. With this program open, just select your USB stick. For me, that's E. Don't accidentally select your operating system or another external hard drive. It'll list the name over here. For allocation unit size, leave that to default. Volume label, name your USB stick whatever you want. Have quick format checked. And then before you hit start, make sure all the files that you want to keep from your USB stick are moved to another drive, because it will completely delete every file on your USB stick. Also, make sure you're using a USB stick, not like an SSD or anything else, because one, you're just going to be wasting the performance of that device, because the PS2 only has a 1.1 version USB slot, so it's relatively slow. Good enough to run most PS2 games, but still, I recommend just using a USB stick. And then secondly, make sure it's under 2 terabytes in size. That shouldn't be an issue for most people. Just wanted to point that out though. Hit start. Let this bar fill up completely, and then hit close. The next step we're going to do is open up OPL Daily Build 1866, or whatever version you have at the time of this tutorial. And copy all of these files. So highlight, copy, open up your USB stick. Since we just formatted it to FAT32, it's going to be empty. But for the sake of the tutorial, I already have files in here. So right click and hit paste. Once you do that, your file structure should be very similar to mine. If it's not exactly the same, that's okay, as long as it looks very similar. Go ahead and go back to your FreeMcBoot tool folder. So what we've done so far is set up the USB stick into the right format, and then we moved all of the necessary files to the USB stick. The OPL is basically just a program that the PS2 uses to run PS1 and PS2 games from a USB stick. So essentially, it's just a PlayStation 2 program. The next step we're going to do is open up OPL Manager. Now, OPL Manager is a program on Windows that allows us to manage our PS1 and PS2 games before we play them on the PS2. So try not to confuse OPL and OPL Manager. So OPL Manager is specifically the Windows program. So go ahead and open up OPL Manager. First time you open it up, you're going to see something different. So let me set this up for a moment. We're going to try opening it again. This is what you should see. No CD or DVD or art folder found in the selected OPL folder. This is first time set up. Completely fine. Just hit OK. You're going to get an empty text box. Make sure you select no. If you accidentally select yes, it's fine. It's just going to create a few empty folders inside whatever directory is set. So just hit no. If you accidentally hit yes, just find those folders and delete them. So go to settings, change mode OPL folder. Wherever this path is listed is wherever those empty folders are present if you accidentally selected yes. Make sure the mode is set to normal and hit browse. And what we're doing right now is just telling OPL Manager where our USB stick is located and where our games should be located. So just click browse, choose your USB stick, and hit OK. Make sure you hit save, not the X. Nothing's really going to change because we don't have any PS2 games on here yet, but now OPL is configured properly for us to place those games onto the USB stick. Let's go ahead and try a PS1 game. So I have Crash Bash here, And we're going to open up Free Boot Tools, PS1 games to USB, QBin to VCD. As you can see here, Crash Bash is, and most PS1 games will be, in bin format and Q format. And we're going to convert this typical format over to VCD. VCD stands for Virtual CD-ROM. This is what the POPS emulator, which is built into the PS2, uses to run PS1 games. It's a very layman's term explanation, but all you needed to know is this is the format that your PS1 game is going to come into, typically, and we need to convert that to VCD. So open up that folder. If you do not have a Q file and you only have a bin file with your PS1 game, that's okay. I'm going to show you how to fix that. Sometimes you will need to do this process even if you have a Q file. If you're having issues converting, so it's good to know. So if you just have a bin file, place it into this folder. Makes it a bit simpler. Open up QMaker version 2. Browse for your game. Since we placed it in here, it's very easy to find. Otherwise, you'll need to dig through your directory for it. Hit OK. Make sure you choose PlayStation. If you don't, once you hit generate, it should ask you. So shouldn't be a big issue if you don't. Make sure you do. And it's going to create a Q file with the same output name. So make sure both names match. Also make sure that your game is under 32 characters in size, or OPL will have issues opening it, I believe. As you can tell, it's quite a bit under 32. I'm not sure about commas, quotation marks, or any sorts of anything other than letters. That's something you'll have to experiment with, but I'm just going to leave mine as this and choose generate. Q file has been saved. Hit OK. Close out the window. And as you can see here, I'm not sure if I already had this in here, but I'm going to go ahead and delete it because that's a little bit further in the tutorial. But now you should have your bin and your Q. Take your Q, place it on top of Q to POPS, and then this file will be produced. This file is essentially your PS1 game. So you can take these two files and delete them if you're not going to use them for PC emulation or any other purposes like that. I'm just going to delete it. Take this VCD file, and all we're going to do is cut, open up your USB stick, go to the POPS folder. This is where your PS1 games are going to be stored. Make sure these two files are located inside the POPS folder. If you do not have these files, you'll need to obtain them in some way, whether it's through the internet or through other means. But once you do have those files, go ahead and hit paste and let that copy over. Next step is going to be closing out of OPL Manager if you already have it open. Now that my game is on my USB stick, close out all the windows you have currently open. Go back to OPL Manager. I'll open it up again. You're going to get the error one bad named ISO, showing bad ISO tab. That's completely normal, so just hit OK. If you do not get that error, then just go to bad ISO. If you're on this tab, go to bad ISO. Choose the game or any game in this list that has this error. And for PS1 games, you're going to highlight and then choose batch convert VCD naming. Basically, OPL Manager is going to change the name to the correct format, which is this. So from this, to this so that OPL can recognize it. Hit that button. For the sake of this tutorial, we're going to choose USB. Make sure these are checked the same. So this is unchecked, this is checked, and choose Start. This is just a friendly reminder to have those ELF files in your POPs folder. Just hit OK. And operation has been completed. Close out of that window, and now you should be back to the Home tab. See your game in the list with the correct ID. Just to recap, we took our PS1 game, changed it to the correct format, put it on your USB stick, opened up OPL Manager, changed the ID and title to the correct format. And now the last step we're going to do is you're not going to see the art for your game just yet. There are two ways to do this. I'm going to show you the first one. Highlight Crash Bash. Go to Manage Arts. These will all be blank for you, or some kind of stock image. This folder right here is to choose your own custom image. It tells you the resolution of each one at the top, so make sure they match. This is to download images from the server. I'll show you that really quick. Click on that. It'll load an image. Choose the check mark, and it'll place it here. X is to delete the art from your USB stick. I'll choose yes. Need to add it back. Just choose one of these options and check mark. And it's back. Once you're done, close out of this window. PS1 games are relatively simple. Takes about 5-10 minutes once you know what you're doing. And they all involve the same process. So we're done with PS1 games. PS2 games are a bit trickier because you have PS2 games that are in different formats and different sizes. So unfortunately there are at least 2 or 3 different processes you'll need to know before copying PS2 games over to OPL. First thing I'll cover is, if this is kind of a rare circumstance, but if your PS2 game is also in bin and queue format, we're going to convert them to an ISO. With OPL Manager open, go to Tools, Disk Convert to ISO. And again, this is only for PS2 games, not for PS1 games that are in the same format. So for PS2 games, Tools, Disk Convert to ISO. The mode will be set to bin, NRG, etc. to ISO. Open file, find your game. Mine's The Sims. It's going to pull your game ID and the title. Just hit browse. What you're doing here is deciding where to install this new ISO file. Open up DVD. And as far as I'm aware, yeah, it should definitely be the case. Any bin and queue file for PS2 is going to be under 4 gigabytes in size. So you should always put it in the DVD folder. It will have a game ID, period, and then the title. That's the correct naming format. It should do this automatically. Make sure it's an ISO and hit save. Choose start. And we're done, so just hit OK. Close out of this window. File, refresh list. Now our game is displayed inside OPL Manager. And it's as simple as that for games under 4 gigabytes in size. If you happen to have an ISO that's under 4 gigabytes in size, not in this format, all you'll do is, I'm going to locate the game here really quick. It's not going to be named like this. It's actually going to be named something different. Let's move this over to the desktop just to show you what it would look like if you obtained your game in ISO format. For example, you have your game, PS2 game, hit properties. You can see how big it is. If it's under 4 gigabytes in size, then we're going to rename it and put it in the DVD folder. Just to be clear, for any game under 4 gigabytes in size, in ISO format, there are only 2 steps. Rename, place in the DVD folder. Let's go ahead and do that. Open up Free McBoot Tools, and then go to PS2 Games to USB. Automatic ISO Renamer. This is a fantastic program. If you just place your ISO on top of it, it automatically renames it to the correct format. And then you just take your game and prefer to cut it and paste it onto your USB stick in the DVD folder. Game is on your USB stick. It's the exact same process. Highlight over it, manage the art, and your game is good to go. For games over 4 gigabytes in size, and let's say you have a game that's very close to 4 gigabytes in size, but you're not quite sure, all you need to do is take your game and attempt to place it in the DVD folder. If you get this error, then it's too big. It's over the 4 gigabyte limit. That's an easy way to test that if you have a game that's like 3.98 and you're not quite sure. For games that are over 4 gigabytes in size, it's also just a couple step process. Open up Free McBoot Tools, PS2 Games to USB, installing games over 4 gigabytes in size, and then run the program USB util. I'm going to choose the English version. Click OK. Create game from ISO. Choose the source. Mine's going to be the C drive. And if it's on the desktop, it's just going to be your drive, your username. So users, your username, desktop. And once you're in the folder where the game's located, it'll show up down here. Highlight the game. It'll automatically generate a name for your game. I'll just leave that at God of War 2. I'm very sorry, I did miss a step, and that is, and it's very, you can see how easy it is to miss steps, is to rename the ISO to the correct format. So let's go ahead and do that really quick. As I showed you before, Free McBoot Tools, PlayStation 1 or PlayStation 2 Games USB, drag your game on top of automatic ISO renamer, and it'll fix it for you. I'm going to take away this part here, just to have the game name. I'm pretty sure this section here, after your game ID, can be anything you want, but don't quote me on that. I'm just going to leave it at God of War 2. Let's close out of this and go back into USB util. I'm going to click desktop, and now you can see my game is here. I'm not entirely sure if the game the ISO name format matters when doing this process, but just to be safe, why not take the extra 2 seconds and rename it automatically. Let's go ahead and leave this at auto. Your destination is going to be your USB stick. And then it's not DVD for these games. It's just your USB stick, as far as I'm aware. If I'm wrong about this, I'll leave some kind of annotation somewhere on the screen for you to do it the correct way. As far as I'm aware though, just place it on your E drive. Make sure this is set to auto, no patches, show DNAS window, unchecked, and hit create. This is going to take quite a long time, around, I believe when I test this, around 10-15 minutes, just because these games are quite a bit bigger. Once you do this, it'll show up onto your OPL manager just like every other game.